Kita ada di tempat yang agak berbeda dari Cambridge, namanya Somerville, karena kita akan pergi ke Greentown Labs yang konon adalah coworking space climate tech terbesar di dunia. Hi Wenbo, good morning.
Good
Thank you
morning.
so much for receiving me.
Of course.
Yeah, so wow, we are in Greentown Lab
Yes.
in Somerville.
So it has 3 floors.
Yeah.
First floor is mostly lab,
Yeah.
and the second floor is co-working space for the
Okay.
startups.
Okay. Oh, this is the co-working
There's another
space.
third floor, which is also office space.
What is the third floor?
It's also the same co-working space.
Oh,
office
okay.
space.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get
Okay. How many companies are working here? Wenbo?
a lot, so you can see all the logos here.
Okay.
All right.
Did we book this place?
Yes.
Okay. So we are in a conference room and we're here with Wenbo Shi. So just tell me a little bit about yourself first, because I heard that you have an interesting background. Don't
Sure.
worry.
So my name is Wenbo. I'm the founder and CEO of Singularity Energy. We are a Harvard spin-off, a startup focusing on providing data and software solutions to utilities, grid operators, as well as large energy users to better understand their carbon emissions and also to utilize that information for decision making. We're a seed stage company based here at Greentown Labs in Somerville, and we have customers across the country and growing very fast. So it's a very interesting area, emerging area, but also very challenging because it's still like a very early market right now.
Okay. And where are you from, Wenbo? And like, what's your story? How long have you been here?
Yeah, originally from China. I studied in the US. As I mentioned, this is a Harvard spin-off. So I went to Harvard for a postdoc in 2015. So initially, Singularity was a commercialization project out of the lab. And I would say initially the idea was pretty different from what we're doing right now because when I was thinking about how to translate part of the research that I was doing at that time, it was more focused on power system optimization, things like EV charging, battery storage management, because that was more related to my research at that time. But as I started to talk to some of the early prospects and customers, learn a lot of questions about carbon emissions. So people were asking us questions like, how should I quantify emissions from my EV charging, battery storage, etc. So that's why we realized there was a gap, and there's a need for people to better understand their emissions from electricity consumption. But at the same time, there's no good data about it. So that's why, as a company, we made a pivot to focus more specifically on carbon emissions, starting with data, and then gradually we also expanded to a lot of different types of data-driven use cases to help people better understand emissions and utilizing that information for different types of decision-making, from operational decision-making, like when to charge your car, when to charge your battery, so that you can minimize your emission impact, to more long-term planning decisions. So for example, for companies who are trying to build new factories or data centers, where to build, right? And how can you make sure that it's going to be using clean energy, green energy, and it can also help the companies meet their sustainability targets.
I see. Okay. So like you mentioned that you came here for your postdoc.
Yes.
So you did your PhD before.
Yes, I did my PhD at UCLA, so
Okay.
I moved from the West Coast to the East Coast.
And this is basically your research from
Yes.
UCLA, and you brought it to Harvard.
Yes,
Is
it's
that so?
similar. Yeah,
Okay.
it's all in the same area.
I see. Okay. And then, but it's actually during your time in Harvard that you
Yes.
think of commercializing
Yes.
your research.
Yes.
Just correct me if I'm wrong. So like your product is basically collecting all the data about the usage of renewable energy sources. And
It's a data product. First of all, you're right.
Data product?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a data product. It's a data analytics product.
Yes.
Right? So software is collecting data about
Yeah.
everything that is being generated. So not only renewables, but also other non-renewable generation sources. And then we map that information to carbon emissions and more specifically carbon intensity information for people to understand. For let's say here at Greentown Labs, we're using electricity, right? So we have lights, we have other, TV, other appliances. So if I'm asking you the question, it's like, where does those electricity come from? Right? You probably don't know, right? It might come from solar, it might come from wind, it might come from natural gas, it might come from, nuclear, all different types of sources. So that's kind of like the problem that we're trying to solve, which is, we're collecting data, as I said, about the grid, about the generation, actually sometimes in real time. So like we know exactly what generation sources are powering the electricity at this moment, right? So I can tell you, for example, today, right now, is 20% solar, 30% natural gas, 40% nuclear, for example, right? And then once you have that information, then you can translate that into carbon emissions, because we know how much emissions a typical natural gas power plant is going to produce, and then we know a carbon intensity number, which is measured in pounds or kilograms per megawatt hour or per kilowatt hour. And once you have that information, then you can multiply that by your consumption, right? So that's how we can produce estimated, again, because emissions are, it's measurable at the generation, but it's not measurable at the consumption, right? So at the consumption side, it's all estimation. So what we're doing is really about estimating what is the emission that you should be responsible for as a user of electricity, not as a producer of electricity.
Oh, I see. Okay. And where did you get this data? Is it like a publicly available data, or do you have to get it from, like, I don't know, some?
That's a very good question. So we started with public available data. So for example, right now we're in Boston, and our power grid is called ISO New England, Independent System Operator ISO New England. So it has information about the grid that is powering all 6 states in New England. So they actually publish very granular fuel mix information or generation mix information. Like I said, 30% solar, 40% nuclear, things like that. They publish that information already. But what they didn't do is translate that into carbon and also makes that data useful and actionable for consumers. So that is kind of like one part of the data that we use. We also use data sets from the EPA, the EIA, those are all government agencies, Environmental Protection Agency, Energy Information Agency. So they have very good, high quality historical data about emissions, about power generation. So we also utilize that data sets for historical benchmarking. We use historical data to make real-time prediction. But all of those data sets are publicly available. So we started with that first. But we also run into a lot of challenges of using public available data. So for example, as I said, like ISO New England, or the grid operator of the New England grid, they only have information for all 6 states here in New England. So they don't have like very specific information for Massachusetts or even for Boston, right? So I got some questions, like people from Vermont, which is another state in the New England area. So they said, okay, I want to have a Vermont specific carbon intensity information, because they're using a lot of hydro, right? So locally, so they don't want to be averaged with Massachusetts, for example, right? Because here we have a lot of natural gas power plants. So if you want to have like more regional specific data or more location specific data, public data is not going to get you there. So then you have to work with the operator directly, because they have the information that you need to answer those questions, but they're just not using that for carbon yet, or they are not sharing that data with the public, right? So that's actually another important pivot that we made as a company. As I said, the first pivot is from power system optimization to carbon. The second pivot is from leveraging or using public available data to actually try to work with the operators or utilities directly to provide even more granular and more specific information for people to understand their emissions.
who are the consumer of this?
Okay, that's also a good question. So there are different types of, I would say, potential users of the data, right? I think the first type of user, or the majority of our current use cases, is targeting large companies who need this information to better report their emissions. Because they need this type of data for their, for example, ESG reporting, and there are also increasing compliance reporting requirements, both in the US as well as in Europe, right? Like companies need to report their emissions. So the question is, especially for companies who are relying a lot on electricity, right? So it's like, for example, if you look at Google, Microsoft, like all those IT companies, majority of their emissions come from electricity, right? So like, how do you understand and how do you quantify the emissions from your data centers, for example, right? It's very important to them. And they also face a lot of pressure from the media, from the public, and from their users that is your data accurate? Is your data like defensible? It's not greenwashing, right? So that's kind of like very important to them. So I think that's kind of like the one type of user, right? There's definitely like a type of other user, like residential customers, consumers, general public who are interested in this type of information. So we have been working with some consumer-facing companies as well. For example, there's a company called Sense here in the Boston area. So they provide a sensor that you can put into your circuit breaker, and then it can give you real-time consumption information. For example, you can understand how much power that I'm using for my TV, for my lighting. So they have customers who are not only interested in understanding the kilowatt hours of their consumption, but also the emissions associated with that kilowatt hours, right? So that's why they actually work with us. They use the data from us, but they also power their application to the consumers to help them understand what is being generated from the grid right now, and how do you, if you want, right, you can also try to minimize that. Right. So here in the US, there are, for example, a lot of like green energy programs or clean energy programs. So utilities can actually sell clean power to their specific customers. So the question becomes like, okay, when you want to sell your clean energy products to your customers, you need to show them, what is your emission before and after, right? So like, what is your emission today if you don't participate in that clean energy program versus, okay, if you participated, here's how much emission that you can, lower, right? And then this type of information that we provide becomes a very important tool for them to understand, okay, where you are, and if you want to become, 30% carbon reduction, or if you want to become like net zero, what are the options, right? So this becomes essentially a sales tool to utilities.
Very important.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And so you're now operating in New England.
Yes.
Are you looking at operating nationally?
We are based here in New England, but our products or our current target market is the whole U.S.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing a lot of interest from different parts of the country, as well as internationally. I would say we definitely heard a lot of activities in the Europe market and also in Asian market. But again, different markets have a little bit different different types of data, different types of operators, and we have most of our experience right now in the US market. So currently still focused on the US market, but I would say the market needs and the technology would probably be very similar if we want to expand to other markets.
Great. And I heard that actually from Paul that there is like this two wind turbine in Harvard.
Yes.
And he said that it's actually Singularity.
Well, that's a long story. So
okay.
No, the wind turbines are not us. We are Harvard is actually one of our earliest customers. what we did was we did actually two things with them. Number one, we actually helped the sustainability office compare different types of projects it's not on-site, it's off-site. So Harvard is purchasing clean energy from other states, and we help them did some analysis and evaluation of different projects. What are the emission impact of those projects, so that Harvard can actually choose the most impactful project, right? So that's kind of like one thing that we did for the sustainability office. We also did a project with HBS. It's not the wind turbine, it's actually the battery storage. Yeah, so it's a storage project, similar story. If you know when the grid is dirtier or cleaner, then you can change your operation. Like for example, like you probably want to charge your battery when the grid is cleaner and then discharge when it's dirtier.
Okay, but then that makes sense why Harvard wants this to be their spin-off project, because you also do a lot of things with them, right?
Yes. We have like very close relationship with sustainability office, with especially HBS.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that so this is a spin-off from Harvard. This is a commercialization from research that you did. What's the process in Harvard when when you want to commercialize your research? I mean, I heard that you need to like register the patent, etc. But then like what can you do with Harvard, together with Harvard?
So I think maybe Paul can answer that question better than I do, because I think Harvard does have a lot of resources.
Yeah, but maybe it's like from your startup point of view, right? Yeah.
I think from my point of view, I think the most important thing is like you need to figure out a direction at least, right? And then you need to have commitment. And then once you have that commitment, once you know that this is something that you want to dedicate to, right? Then you can find a lot of resources, as I said, from the school, from the university, from different ecosystems, right? And then also here at Greentown Labs, right? So they have a lot of like different types of resources to help startups grow. I think in the very early days, it's not easy. So that's why you need a lot of support, right? As I said, Harvard was the initial company founder, right? So like they funded our project. They also are probably our first customer, right? So they gave us a lot of like support, endorsement, which helped us open the doors to other investors, other customers, right? They definitely helped us in the very early days. So I think the process-wise, it's probably going to be a little bit different for everybody. You register the company, like you do some business plan, right? And then you write some grants, probably, right? And then you pitch to investors. You try to get more other people to join the team, right? So again, there are lots of different things that you have to do.
The reason why I'm asking this is also because like I've heard about like how it's being done with research commercialization at MIT.
Yes.
So for example, at MIT there is a lot of programs like Sandbox program, and also
Engine.
Exactly, like a more advanced program like the Engine, where they actually put maybe around 400,000 to new startups. Does Harvard do that kind of investment?
I think Harvard, I'm not sure if Harvard has like a investment program, but they definitely have acceleration program. That's basically what Paul is doing, right? The grid, right? So they have some grants or accelerator program.
Do you know in what range?
I think it's probably like 100K, maybe more than that, because again, my information is already outdated. So it's probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago's information. So they may have changed that number, but it's probably going to be in that range. I think one.
So with Harvard Innovation Lab, they give grants of I think around 15 to 25K.
Right, iLab also makes the investment.
Yes, but like Harvard Grid is more like the Engine, right?
Right. It's more like the Engine. They have like acceleration program.
A big seed grant.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Is it grant or like
it's
equity?
Grant.
Oh,
it's a grant. It's a grant. It's not an investment. So I think the main difference between MIT and Harvard is probably, at least from my perspective, like maybe MIT has more hardware, like more deep tech company.
Right.
I think deep tech is definitely a little bit different from what we're doing, right? Because we're software, we're data company, software company, which is very different from hardware deep tech company, which requires a lot of investment, and especially capital investment, before they can even attract some customers, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably very different from at least Singularity that we're doing, so I couldn't comment on that too much. I think our experience is more relevant to those who are more on the software side, right?
Yeah.
So it's like relatively easy to get started, relatively easy to test the market.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, relatively easy to show, oh, here's the concept, right? And then we can have some demo to demonstrate that. But I think for deep tech, hardware company and also like medical companies, bio companies, it's probably going to be a very, very different process and different types of, like validation, different paths.
Yeah, well, they said MIT is ahead in terms of engineering, but Harvard is always about the diplomacy side, negotiation, political will, etc. Right? One more last question. Sorry.
Sure.
So you're a foreigner, right? You're from China, and is there any difficulty that you face as as a foreign founder registering your
I don't
company
think so.
in the US?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's pretty much
Straightforward,
the same.
just
very,
the same,
very,
yeah.
very similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Wenbo.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And Wenbo, do you know a little bit of the Greentown Labs history? Like what's
It's on the entrance, right?
Okay, we're doing the tour. Red bricks, as always. It's very Harvard, very Cambridge.
So there are some pictures from NASA history of Greentown Labs, but this is
Those pictures?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
everything behind the
Yeah.
closed doors.
So this is basically like where you made all the conferences and
Yes.
etc. Okay. Do you know how many companies work here, or
You
should I
can
just
see that on the website.
Okay, yes.
But I think it's probably going to be more than 100. Yeah.
More than what? Sorry.
More than 100.
100. Okay. You can also receive mailings from here, yeah?
So you can see
Kitchen. Sorry. Kitchen. Sorry?
So here, and then you'll see two clocks. One in Somerville, one in Houston, because they have two locations.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Houston, Texas.
Yes. And then on this side, we can see all the chocolates.
Wow. These are the sponsors?
Yes.
So like the terawatt is the biggest one?
Yes.
This is really interesting because these are like big companies like Amazon, etc. So like they're like ready to procure like new technology from these startups?
No,
is that
it's just like they're, they have some partnership with Greentown Labs, and some of them run. But they're all like supporters.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But I mean, I would imagine that they become like also corporate venture capital, right? And also
Some of them. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, not all.
Got it.
But like all the companies here are called like corporate partners, and then you can meet them. They have some events,
Yeah.
right? So at least you have connections through Greentown Labs. Too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
And
Nice.
Then, and then you can see some of the
Oh. Ping pong table, of course. Oh yeah.
I
War
think this is
base?
probably the ribbon cutting for this place.
What
There are a lot
year?
of people when there is conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have solar panels on top of the building.
Oh, like on the roof?
On the roof.
So like
So
this.
this is a
Oh yeah, this is where we are right now. So this is the building, and so like this is probably like 100% solar energy.
I don't
We
know.
have oh, that's actually your job, right?
This is how it looks like. It's a factory.
Oh, it's a factory.
Yeah. So you see.
Oh, it used to be a factory here,
Yeah.
and then they turned it into a co-working space.
Yeah.
Very nice. Wow.
This is the history of it.
Oh wow, this is so cool actually. Look at that. Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, and that's the kitchen area.
Yeah, that's where all the important deals are being made. And also around ping pong table. Yeah.